Hey guys, good afternoon. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm here in California. We got Rich here that's down in Mexico, and I'm excited. It's been months that I've been looking forward to this interview today, guys. So let me introduce him real quick to give you a little background, and we'll get rolling. This is Rich Haggerty, who is an active endurance athlete and surfer, healthy and active. He woke up paralyzed in the ICU with 16 titanium screws and 2 rods permanently holding his neck and upper back together. A mountain bike accident with injuries that are not survivable. Not knowing if he'd walk again, nobody knew, and a brain injury. Things were pretty rough. He decided he would do what he could with his capabilities with each step of 14 painful months of physical therapy and trauma recovery. He had to overcome the mangled body and the fragile mind. He started martial arts after his accident to learn how to fall safely, starting with Krav Maga. This is with the screws and rods still in his back. He's recently returned from Muay Thai training in Thailand, and he will share his painful lessons from his journey in the hopes of helping others find a way to get to the life they want, regardless of what is going on. He really focuses on the mental part of things, even though the physical recovery was just as extreme. Rich lives in rural Mexico, where he spends his time volunteering at the local fire department as an EMT, in the ambulance, and volunteer firefighter. He teaches English to the firefighters and paramedics as a pilot project in the state of Nayarit, Mexico.
Yeah.
He is continually training in martial arts while he is in Mexico. Welcome to the show, Rich. Pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me on.
So we had a little chat before, and I've definitely I'm aware of your story, and I've watched your podcast with Real Talk with Mark Cox. And I'm excited to share this story of struggle and triumph in the end, I believe is a good word to use, and taking a pretty nasty situation, turning it into a positive to help other people. So I hope everybody's tuning in and sitting tight. Get your popcorn ready because we got a great story to tell. So, Rich, I'm going to kick it off to you. Talk to me a little bit about what your life was before this accident that we're going to talk about.
Sure. So before my accident, I was a pretty active guy. I surfed all the time. I was a runner. In my previous life, I've done Ironman triathlon. So staying active and fit was pretty much it. Trail running, surfing, free diving. If it was active, I did it. Backpacking. Everything was kind of good. I was a pretty healthy guy. Everything was normal in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then it happened.
Yeah. Well, now tell me, doing Ironmans, for those that don't even know what an Ironman, explain what an Ironman is and what kind of mindset it takes to complete something of this magnitude.
Okay. Yeah. So Ironman is a triathlon, and you swim 2.4 miles, then you bike 112 miles, and then you run a full marathon, 26.2 miles in one day.
Yeah.
Crazy thing is, my last Ironman, I did 5. My last one, I was in my late 40s. My buddy wanted to do one. He said, "Hey, will you do it with me?" I said, "I don't know. I don't want to do the training. I'll coach you and all that." And so I agreed to do it with him. And I said, "You better train, because if you don't train and I do all this training, I'm going to hunt you down." So he trained, but I didn't train. I just surfed. I didn't do anything else. I just surfed. So I showed up race day basically untrained. He's like, "You're a dead man. Like, this isn't going to work." And I finished, but I ended up in the hospital with rhabdo. And I didn't know what rhabdo was at the time. And so I was in the hospital for a few days. And so I was like, okay, so that's Ironman. So actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because Ironman, my experience with Ironman actually helped me get through the physical part of this recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So those are pretty intense things to complete, but it always feels good when you go crawling across that finish line.
Explain what rhabdo is when you're in the hospital.
So rhabdo is rhabdomyolysis, and basically you break down so much muscle tissue that your creatine levels are too high, and so your kidneys can't process it. So your kidneys shut down. Basically, your kidneys go, "Hey, there's too much toxins coming through the kidneys. Shut them down, protect the organs."
Mm.
So I had 13 IV bags before I peed in the hospital.
Wow, insane.
It's a dangerous thing. And like people that go CrossFit, hey, your first CrossFit, and they push these guys all day long.
Yep.
They're going to get rhabdo. People that do 2 days of football camps and just, if you're not in tune with working out 8 to 10 hours straight, you have a good chance of getting rhabdo. It took me 6 months to recover from that.
Wow. 6 months. That's crazy. Well, I've done a triathlon, but I've done the sprint, right? I've done the shortest distance, right? And let me tell you, I thought that I was going to die in the water because like you, I figured I'll run. The running was the easy part. It was only 5K, right? So it was short. And the biking, I was riding a mountain bike, wasn't riding a road bike. That was a little rough, but but dude, the water. I did all my training in the pool. Big mistake because swimming in the pool and swimming in the ocean, totally different things. I thought I was going to drown. Hardest thing I ever did. But
there's no line. There's no line on the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly.
Like in a pool.
And so, so the level of training and the level of activity that you were involved in, I mean, was 4 times that on, several times over, right? So super active, surfing a lot, running, biking, doing the whole bit. And then now tell us about this accident. How did it happen? What happened?
So what happened was I was up in Ventura. I used to live in Ventura, and I'm up on the top of the Topa Topa Mountains with a buddy. We essentially carried our mountain bikes up the side of the mountain because the weeds were so tall, because that year it rained a ton. The year that winter before, and so this was June 4 years ago. So we're at the top of the mountain, and we're like, okay, it's time to get out. And it's a fire road, just a dirt road. It's like, okay, let's just cruise down. Now we weren't doing jumps, none of that stuff. We're too old for that. Rolling down the fire road, I didn't get that far. My buddy was in front of me, and what happened was, as I'm rolling down, my bike tracked to the left a little bit. I'm like, okay, I'm on the left side of the fire road, and I saw some weeds up ahead. Overgrown weeds. It's okay. I'm just going to get, slapped on the leg with the weeds. No big deal. And as the weeds hit my legs, my front tire started going in this big, massive hole that I couldn't see. And so the bad part about this was if I just kind of went down and hit and just fell off the bike, went over the handlebars, I don't think it would have been as bad. But what happened was I'm coming down at an angle, so I hit here, and it launched everything up.
Oh.
So I went straight up. And from surfing, I remember looking down on my left side. The last thing I remember seeing was at my left hip was the handlebar. So in surfing, when you wipe out, get away from the board because it's a dangerous object. Same with the bike. And then everything blacked out. Everything went silent. And then I felt my head pulling down. You're coming down on your head. I could feel the gravity, but everything was black. I didn't hear anything. And I could feel my head pulling down. I was like, oh God, you're coming down on your head. And my feet were above me. And at the last second, literally I said, you're coming down on your head. I tucked my chin, and it was probably 1/1000th of a second. I tucked the chin, and I literally pile drive straight in. Whole boom, straight in. And if I did not tuck my chin, it's a miracle I lived anyway. If I did not tuck my chin, there's no way. Absolutely impossible. I mean, the injuries are already bad enough as it was. So what happened was, now I'm down. At the time, I didn't think I get knocked out. And as I've been kind of like thinking of things, I definitely got knocked out temporarily there. My buddy, I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. My buddy came back and found me. And he was puzzled because I wasn't covered in dirt. I just stuck. Boom. I wasn't like all tumbled with dirt all over my legs or anything. So I crashed under the only cell tower in that entire region. Like, we didn't get signal all day long. So my buddy called 911. He had on speakerphone. I could hear it. He stabilized me. He put me down, and I'm just kind of laying there screaming in pain. Like, it was horrific, the pain. So he called 911, and here's what's amazing is the 911, he had on speaker. So I'm hearing this, and he's about 20, 30 feet away because he had to get where the signal was strongest. So I'm hearing this communication. And they said, okay, where are you? We're like, we're in the Topa Topa Mountains. We're like, where? Well, it's a big range, right? And so they said, turn the compass on the phone. He turned the compass on, says, read us the coordinates. So now they're getting like exact coordinates, and then the phone would go out. I'd have to call him back, and I'm hearing all this, and then they read it back to him, and he said, "That's correct." And they said, "We're on our way." And at that moment, I realized I might actually live through this. Like, I have a chance. So they came, they landed on the mountain. They had a 10-minute window to get me because of the fog. They can't get me in 10 minutes. It's a ground crew, and I just suffocate out. I'm dead. They land a helicopter in the mountain, package me up, throw me in the back of the helicopter. My buddy, he's on his own now. They're like, we don't have room. So he was, boom, off we go. And he's stuck there. He's up on a mountain, and I'm off to the ICU. And then I end up in the trauma center, all kinds of crazy tests. One really harrowing thing. So I broke 5 layers of my neck and 2 layers of my upper back, and I ruptured all the ligaments. So the ligaments hold your bones together. So I have no ligaments in my neck. So my spinal cord was just like a rope, just all tangled up with bone fragments everywhere. And somehow I had a partial spinal cord injury, but I didn't have a complete. So complete is where you cut it. And that's it. They did this massive surgery, and the most dangerous, I mean, the whole thing was dangerous, but C6, so like C6 is about here. What happened was when my neck flexed, C6, and then my neck closed back in, well, C6 stayed out. So my spinal cord was going straight, then it hooked around following C6, and then went back down.
Wow.
And that was all the damage on the left-hand side. The whole left-hand side took a lot of damage. That's where most of the paralysis was. So VCMC Trauma Center, they put me back together. They operated through the front of my neck. They stabilized me, and then they had to turn me over and not cut my cord, and then open from the base of my skull all the way down to the middle of my shoulder blades and pull it apart, put the screws and rods in, and now I'm in the ICU like this. I can't move.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, when this happened, you kind of described, where you were in the moment as the injury had happened, and, getting in the helicopter. Tell me about, waking up from the surgery and just, the mental state after the accident. How were you feeling in your head?
It was bad. It was pretty bad. They had me on pain medicine, so I wasn't thinking clearly. I had an undiagnosed brain injury, so like nobody knew that. They're just like, can you move your toes? Can you move your fingers? Like, they just like kind of, what's going to end up with this guy, right? So I was pretty confused. Now, I'm very fortunate. One of my closest friends is an emergency room doctor up in Santa Barbara. So immediately had my girlfriend at the time call him. So he showed up at the hospital, and he became my medical advocate. And he's like, I'm his private doctor. I have access to everything. So he ran through everything. And he's like, you need a specialty center. You need a specialty center. So I'm still confused. Don't know what's going on. I can't even move. Like, I can't, like, if I move like that, I'd start crying in pain. It was just a sufferfest. So then they transported me to LA to a neurological center. Like, okay, I have a spinal cord injury. The guy can't walk. Like, my neck was like extremely, you can't break your neck any more than I did, really, and live. It's a miracle I lived anyway. So I ended up down there, and then here's one of the biggest things in my entire journey was, so you're confused from the drugs. It's numbing the pain, even though you still feel the pain. They give you another opioid, right? 5 days after my surgery, I said, I don't want any more pain medicine. 0. So the doctors and the nurses like, hey, let's like go and wean you down. I was like, yeah, wean me down. Wean me down is 0. Don't give me anything. They're like, what about Tylenol? I'm like, I'll take Tylenol. So I got a hold of my buddy, the doctor, and he goes, that's a pretty big thing to do. He goes, man, so I relied on meditation, breathing. And that's how I got through it. I just kept meditating. And now my daughter, I have 2 grown daughters, they fly in from Texas, and then there's dad in the hospital, can't walk. And what do they do with this? So I kind of had a semi put on the act so they don't worry.
Right.
But it's pretty obvious. This is an extreme situation, and nobody knows what the end game is. Not like, hey, you're paralyzed from the neck down, you're paralyzed from the waist down. Like, we don't know. You can wiggle your toes. That's a good thing, but we don't know if you're going to be able to walk.
Right.
Okay. Left arm didn't work. Okay. What do you do? That's
Yeah.
where I was. So
Well,
I was pretty confused, but I was in extreme pain because I stopped the pain meds.
mm-hmm.
So I had a good 3 or 4 days to literally just suffer. So I did nothing but suffer, and I didn't even think. So that
Wow.
helped. That helped with the time, I guess.
Well, you know what strikes me just, right to the heart is the fact that here you are, suffering. Here you are, in pain, had the major injury, right? But then, you brought up your daughters, right? And so you have to put on that mask for a minute for them, for their sake, right? How often do we as fathers, as parents, do that for our kids? I mean, sometimes our kids have no idea what we're going through, right? I just think that that's
Yeah.
a good message to put out there as well, is that sometimes we do everything in our power to make sure that our kids don't see that, don't feel that, don't have to, experience the suffering, that maybe we're feeling or we're going through. And of course, in your case, physically excruciating pain and suffering,
Yeah.
that's got to be really tough. You have to really, something in your brain has to be really right to be able to do that, because I don't think that that's just an inherent thing that we can do. I think that we have to consciously focus on doing that. Do you agree with that?
I agree 100%. It's kind of like when your kid's sick, you want to take their pain away from them so they don't
That's
feel
right.
that, right? And this is a mental thing. I did eventually have a meltdown in front of my daughters. I just broke. And it's the only time I did. And I was in denial what was going on. I was like, I can't believe it. What happened was, so I'm in the bed like this, just kind of propped up slightly. And then I asked them to lay the bed with ice packs to cool my injuries and stop the inflammation. And then I kept the room temperature in my room at like 30 below. Like the nurses come in wearing jackets, but I needed to cut the inflammation down in my body. But what happened was they would grab the sheets and kind of slide me up, because I'd slide down and I couldn't really move. I couldn't scoop myself up. That was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
One time they pulled me up and my staples snagged on something. I have this huge line of staples in my neck and back, and it snagged. I moved something, I got hung up, and that pain was pretty bad. Like, that was severe. I mean, and they're like, "What's going on?" I just like, it's the most I've ever suffered, and I was suffering really bad. And I was like, "I can't believe this happened. I just want to go home. This didn't happen." And then we had the meeting. That's when we're like, okay, here's the deal. And so what we did, we said, they're like, one daughter was like, maybe you should try a little bit of the pain medicine, Dad, because all you're doing is suffering. And my other daughter was like, why don't you want to take it? I'm like, I can't think, and I don't want to become an addict. Like, those things are bad news.
Right.
And I want to feel the pain, but I didn't know if I want to feel this much pain. It was bad. And so what we did was, we said, okay, we're going to break the day up into 6-hour chunks, and I have to make it 6 hours, and then we restart the clock. So I was like, okay. And it was like, we looked at the clock. I'm like, okay, we get 6 hours. And if it's painful, I just breathe through it, but I'm doing it. It's almost over. It's almost over. Reset the clock. And then the other thing that we agreed to is I could cry one time a day. One time a day, I could cry. We agreed on that. And so my daughter asked me when that happened. After I had another pretty severe pain episode, my daughter was like, okay, Dad, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not. And she goes, have you cried today? I go, no. She goes, then use it up. So I did.
Wow.
I was just crying. And then that was it. I had it done. So that's not an option anymore. So no more poor me, no more this, just suck it up, because I want to feel what my body's doing. And I want to feel the injuries, because if I can feel the injuries, I can at least clear my head. And so that's what we did. But that's the only time. After that, okay, what can we do? And that's what we're going to do.
Wow. Amazing. Now, you mentioned a good friend of yours became, your medical advocate. Talk about how important that is to have someone, because I've heard so many stories where people they're sick, or they're injured, they're hurt, and they're not always getting the answers that they need or they want. They kind of feel in the dark, and to have someone to really be able to rely on, to really advocate for you, Talk to me about that just a bit.
That was the biggest thing. And my girlfriend at the time was a nurse. And so having my buddy Joe as a medical advocate was the biggest thing out there, because he confirmed everything. He's like, "Did you guys run this test?" He was leaving no stone unturned. And I'm glad, because at the first hospital, which I don't want to say again, there was a doctor there, and he was like, "Yeah, we think we're going to release you." I'm like, "I can't stand. I just had my back cut open and my neck cut open like you can't believe. I don't even know what day of the week it is, and you want to release me?" He goes, "Well, what if we sent you home and we got a little home health care?" And I finally just told him, I said, "Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm calling my buddy that's a doctor. You can go screw yourself. You can try that BS with somebody else. You're not trying it with me." He shut down. "Well, okay, yeah, I understand." And off he went. And my buddy got involved, and that was it. I got transferred to the neurological center.
Wow.
Like, they were going to send me home. I couldn't even stand. I couldn't lift my arm. If I had to brush my teeth, I couldn't. I had, in the beginning, when I could brush my teeth, it was like this. That's all I could do.
And why would they want to send you home? I mean, are you taking up a bed that somebody else can use? I mean,
bingo. Who can we get out? We need a bed. It's a trauma center. And so having a medical advocate, I tell everybody should have their medical paperwork. So if you get, Jason, you fall and you get a brain injury, you might not be dead, but somebody's got to kind of make a decision on like what's going to happen here, right? Everybody should have that stuff, and you should have it on your refrigerator, because that's where the paramedics and that's where the EMTs and the police are going to look for it. But medical, respect doctors, trust but verify. Ask somebody, "Hey, what about this?" Do your own homework. Absolutely do your own homework.
Yeah, no, great. Tell me, were you at the time completely aware of the severity of all of the injuries and all of the trauma to your body? Were you fully aware of what had happened and how this was going to change your life?
No, I knew I broke my neck. That's all I knew. He broke his neck and he can't walk. That's what I knew. And the left arm was like, it took 3 months just to lift my left arm, just to lift it. So the left took the beating, and that's when the cervical column pulled out and pulled my spinal cord with it. And so I had no idea. And I don't know anybody that's ever had a broken neck before. You just hear Christopher Reeve, you hear Superman, right? Or they're dead. Those are the options.
Kurt Angle. So, that's what I think of.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have a broken neck, but then I ask the doctors, like, "What's life like?" And they're like, "People don't survive your injuries, so we don't know. Am I going to be able to walk? If they survive, they're quadriplegic on a ventilator because I broke it here. So from here down, it doesn't work." I said, "We don't know." I said, "We have to be patient. We have to be patient." And then, oh, sorry about that. I thought I turned that off. And so, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Okay. So what happened was the occupation. So every day the neurosurgeons would come in and evaluate me. They're like, "Hey, we want to give you a little bit of blood pressure medicine. Maybe that'll help a little bit with what's going on with like spinal cord injuries. We just don't know. Like, we don't know." And when you have a spinal cord injury, where you are in a year from the injury is kind of like your base. That's good. That's what you're going to end up with, right? The occupational therapist came in one day. She was wonderful. She came in every day. She tried stuff. And so, those compression things they put around your legs when you're in the bed to keep the circulation going. She goes, "I'm going to try to have you stand with those on. We're going to see if your spinal cord will recognize the pressure in your legs." It's like, "Oh, okay." So she comes in and literally they have the team to try to sit me up, and then I'd cry for like 5 minutes, and then they'd stand me up and I'd cry for 3 or 4 minutes in pain. And then if I didn't black out or get vertigo, I was like, okay. And then they're dumping cold water on my head because I'm getting ready to go out, and then they're holding my legs, and the pressure things are going like that. And I didn't fall and I didn't go out. And then she goes, "All right, let's take a couple steps." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I had the walker, and there's a couple people on each side of me because I can't fall. If I fall and break this, I'm dead. That's 6 months. You fall and break that again, you're dead. That's a scary thing too. So I
Wow.
took 20 steps, went back to the bed, and I just bawled my eyes out.
Yeah.
Like, I think at this point, I can at least walk. That's a big thing. I can
Mhm.
walk. I didn't care about the left arm. That comes back, but I can walk. It's like, okay, that's step one.
Yeah. I mean, you're telling this as if it's just, I mean, it's just a matter of fact to you, right? You're just telling this the way it happened. I'm listening to you, and as I'm sure that as people listen to this, just trying to put yourself in that situation, just try to understand. I cannot even fathom those thoughts because right away my mind goes to, all of that, all of that doubt or all of that, what is going to happen. Did you have those thoughts, and did you have these negative thoughts overtake you at any time?
Actually, I didn't the one time with my daughters when I had my meltdown, but
Hmm.
um, the rest, I had horse blinders on, and I kind of blocked out. At one point, I did have, I don't know if it's a negative thought. I thought, when people have polio, they have like those things, the braces that go in their arms, and they can kind of walk like with those. They're kind of like
Hmm.
half crutches. I
Right.
thought maybe that's my end game, and I'm okay with that, right? And I thought that, but for some reason, I don't know why, some reason in my brain, I said only go forward. Now, part of it might have been because of the amount of pain I was in. I was in pain for 3 or 4 months, extreme
Hmm.
pain. Like this stuff
Hmm.
hurts. So I just kind of focused forward, one step in front, one step in front, one step in front. And it's all on me. There's nobody I can call because you don't survive these injuries.
Right.
Hey, what did you do? Hey, what was it like? How long does it take? Like the first time I went to physical therapy, I asked a physical therapist, I said, hey, what's it take for me to kind of get like walking normal? Because my upper half of my body was atrophied. I was walking around like a robot. I couldn't lift anything for 6 months. I said, how long does it take for somebody to kind of get semi-normal and stuff? He said, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You have a doctorate in physical therapy. I said, Rich, people don't walk in here with your injuries. They don't. They're dead or they're wheeled in. Okay, got it. So like even today, like I drove to my gym that's just south of here, and I got up at like 4:30, start driving about 5:15 to get down there for class, and I was like, and I got to class and somebody's like, oh wow, that's kind of a long drive, 30 to 40 minutes, and if it's an epic gym, and they're like, oh, is there a gym closer to you? I said, you don't understand. I get to drive down here.
Hmm.
I get to drive down here. So like when you held your hand up with your pen, you get to hold that pen. You get to hold that pen. I have those reminders all day long. Now it's not consuming, but I'm like, all right, it's hot out. I'm hitting the Muay Thai bag. Man, it feels great to feel my hands on that Muay Thai bag because I can.
Right.
That's my
Right.
yeah. So I never really got negative. Oh my God, what's life? I never did it.
Yeah.
An hour with my kids. This sucks. I don't want it to be real. But the rest is just okay. Let's
What
go
a
forward.
major change in perspective in life, right? I mean, just a
Yeah.
major complete change. So let me ask the question: if you could go back and change everything and wipe out that accident, take that accident away, never happens, could you live
No.
with that?
And people think I'm a liar. No. And I mean, here's the strange thing. If you ask anybody that had a near death or certain death but lived experience,
Hmm.
99 out of 100 are going to tell you they're glad it happened or they're glad they wouldn't reverse it, right? Now, if I was a quadriplegic, my answer would probably be different, I would imagine, right?
Hmm.
But for me, I was surfing some pretty big waves and I was chasing some pretty big waves. Like I was surfing Chopu over in Tahiti. I was chasing some pretty heavy waves around the world. And I'm pretty sure this accident kept me from dying in big waves. I'm pretty certain. I was on a pretty fast track on that stuff. Um, and then my perspective on the adventure in my life changed. Like I got my EMT license at 55, right? I'm having a ball down here in Mexico riding in the ambulance. I drove it a couple of times, just helping other people. And so the appetite for that reward from adventure, the the appetite's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. It's great working with the bomberos and the paramedics on there. It's awesome. I don't need to jump off the cliff and land in the ocean. It's okay. I
Yeah.
can't surf anymore. It's too dangerous, and that was my passion. But that's okay. My hands, see these things? They're moving. I'm alive.
Yeah. Now I have to ask, what made you move from California to Mexico? What a little sidetrack, different part of the story,
Okay.
but
Okay. So, without talking politics in the state of California right now, because I lived in Ventura, you're just up the road. We won't get
yeah.
into that. So I had two choices. I could work my butt off for another 7 years and retire and kind of live okay, or I could pretty much punch out now and live great. So a buddy of mine has two houses down here. He goes, why don't you come down and rent the house beside me? Like, I don't know. It's nondescript Mexico. I'm like, I'm in Mexico. I'm not in, like, there's no Starbucks here. Like, you know, there's one ambulance, half the time it's broken. You know, I mean, literally, one day I was in the fire department. And we had to try to lasso a bull that got loose so it didn't run out on the highway, right? You know, it's pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, it's like change of pace, give back to others. I'm learning Spanish, and so hey, now, and I couldn't do this in the U.S. In the U.S., I went to the emergency room. I don't know if people know this, but EMTs are in emergency rooms. So when you break your arm and the doctor says, hey, we need to put it in a splint, the EMT is the one that's going to put it in the splint. Okay. And so in the U.S., I went to volunteer, like, nope, you have to be an employee because of the liability, the insurance, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't want a job, guys, but I want to use my skills. So I came down here and they're like, hey, you learn Spanish, you're in. Yeah, I just got my fire coat the other day. They gave it to me. So I'm having fun, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, you know, you talked about how your perspective changed and how your search for adventure has changed. Go into that just a little bit more. How obviously, you know, you're surfing big waves, doing big things, doing the, you know, the Ironmans and all the stuff, right? But obviously the accident changed you and changed your perspective. But what fills that gap for you? Because, you know, I think you said it's helping others and using your hands
It's
to be
helping
there
others.
for.
It's helping others. And so, like, and maybe I'm a little bit older, and like my buddy was like, dude, you're like way off the bell curve. Like, we want to get you at least on the bell curve, right? Like, because stuff I was doing was pretty wild. But when I surfed the big waves, I wore a surf helmet. Okay, I'm not going to crack my head on the reef, or I might, but you know, I'll be more protected. And so now I tell people like, hey, what are you doing down in Mexico? I say, well, I'm living. They're like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, I'm living. Like, I drove to the gym today. That was beautiful to me. That was me. It's really pretty. I'm driving through the mountains and stuff. I get there, it's pink sky, full moon. Go to the gym, hardcore Mexican gym. Like, these are workouts. It's an MMA gym with hardcore workouts on top of it. So nobody's dressed pretty because you're going to be drenched after, right? So they do Muay Thai, BJJ, and boxing there on top of these hardcore classes. And I'm grateful I lived. And in my mind, and that's why I'm glad to do this interview with you. That's why I wrote all my podcasts. I put a lot of time into that. Is I have to, in my mind, I know what bonus time is, and I have 4 years of bonus time, and I want to get 4 years in 1 day of bonus time, in 4 years and 2 days of bonus time. So my perspective is, like last night, I went to a friend of mine. He wants to learn how to throw some basic combo. So I went over to his house. I was kind of tired. I didn't really feel like going at the time we went over there, but he just got off work. I was like, you know what? This is great because he's going to be excited. That's it. It was jab cross and it was dark. I could hardly even see him holding the focus mitts. But it was like, okay, that's cool because I helped another guy.
Right.
You know? It's just that, like, how do we help each other? And I'm primarily Buddhist, so be a good person, go help other people. It's pretty simple. So I'm not chasing the money oriented. You got to do that stuff for a while. And now it's just kind of like helping others, volunteerism in the living. I'm just living.
Yeah, good
And
for you. That's so awesome. Such a huge change in pace of what you were used to. Coming from Ventura, being in Southern California, like you said, there's all this stuff. You remove yourself from that situation, and now just just living, just living
I'm living.
is enough, and fulfills you to help other
Yeah.
people.
And I'm kind of a minimalist type person. I don't care if I have the new iPhone or the newest vehicle. None of that stuff jazzes me. And down here, it's not an option. Like these guys at work, like a construction worker is making $14 a day,
Hmm.
like a day. So there's no consumerism where I am. There's zero. So these people are working for a meal, right? And they appreciate like the smallest things matter. And I
Hmm.
kind of like that, I've kind of detached from the whole consumerism of the USA because we're bombarded with it. When I go back to visit, I'm just like, wow, there's like a lot of ads, a lot of brand new vehicles, a lot of so much stuff in the stores. This is crazy. Like it's a little bit overwhelming. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm just living, and I'm appreciating that I lived. I'm appreciating I'm alive. I'm appreciating my body functions, and I'm glad I'm in a position to somehow help others.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. You had to learn how to walk, how to, get everything back. So how did you mentally prepare for starting over?
Okay, so it just kind of happened. I actually didn't prepare. Um, and we're going to talk about what I learned after. So my doctor said, I said, okay, what can I do in the beginning? They said, okay, you can walk with a walker, and I still have the neck brace on. They said you can walk with a walker. I'm like, okay, is there any limits how far I can walk? Like, nope. They're like, take rests. We need you to rest a little bit too, because I'm still pretty messed up, right? And I stopped the pain medicine. I'm taking nada. So I just started in where I lived in this apartment complex. There was like a path that was pretty safe, so I would just kind of push the walk around there. And then I went out to the promenade, and I went along the wall where nobody can go by and clip me with a bike or bump into me, right? And I'm pushing the walker like a robot. I got the neck brace on. I kind of look like a freak out there, right? And I just said, okay, I'm going to just keep walking. They said I can walk. I'm going to keep walking. And I just kept doing this. Each day, I said, you're going to go a little bit further than tomorrow, no matter how much it hurts. Now, this is pain. As I'm pain, like the shoulders, like the pain rising up in
Hmm.
the shoulders, like it's
Hmm.
it's extreme. I got the neck brace on,
Right.
and I just kept going. People like, hey, I see you all over town now, right? I'm smiling. I'm outside. I'm seeing birds. I'm seeing the ocean. And one day I pushed it 8 miles.
Wow.
I pushed the walker 8 miles wearing a neck brace. So okay, that's good. Okay, so you can walk. Okay, I can walk. But then I had to take the neck brace off, and I had to ditch the walker, and that's scary. And during the first 6 months, they're like, you can't fall. If
Yeah.
you fall in that brace, you will die. Great. Kind of go drive your car, but don't get in an accident. But what if somebody hits you? Huh? It doesn't matter. They better not. Like it's kind of like it's
Right. I
dicey,
mean, you
scary.
have to start becoming way more aware of everybody else than just, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could trip, you could fall, you could bump into something, but you can kind of control that part, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't control, I when you were talking about walking outside with the walker, with the neck brace on, all I could think to myself is, man, like that's pretty brave because like what if some kid on a skateboard's riding by and falls off his
A
skateboard,
dog.
accident, hits you, a dog, anything.
Yeah. Yep. So I did that, and then I ditched the walker, and then I started walking like I'm walking like Frankenstein because I'm all atrophied here, and my neck was kind of all arched out like that, like a giraffe
Hmm.
neck in the beginning. That's kind of normal from a massive neck injury. So I'm kind of walking around like a tweaker. I look like a tweaker, honestly, because I'm being real careful and I'm just kind of going
And you're
like
in
that.
Ventura.
Yeah, and I'm in Ventura. And actually, I crossed the street one day, and this guy was crossing with his two young kids, and he sees me, and I can see him pull his kids to the side, like don't get too close to that guy. I was like, oh, harmless. Trust me, trust me. All you need to do is hit me with your finger, and you're safe, right?
Right.
So I did that, and then my neighbor Pat, I love dearly. She quit smoking. She made a life change. Quit smoking, quit eating junk food. She just started walking. And I said, hey, could we walk one day? Can I walk with you one day? She goes, sure, I'd love the company. I go, look, I'm going to be really slow and cautious. She says, no problem. So we just started walking, and it's a pretty safe area at 5:30 in the morning. Walk the promenade, right? There's not a lot of people. You just got to watch out for the bad dudes, but they're probably sleeping it off. So I started doing that, and we started speed walking. Then I said, I'm gonna try a jog on the beach. And now every time I did something, I had to call my doctors. I jogged on the beach. It's like, hey, I'm actually jogging on the beach. Oh, maybe I can jog a little bit on the promenade. Maybe I can jog a little bit more on the promenade. Actually, before I did the jogging, I kept walking. Let me backtrack a little bit. I kept walking. I said, I'm going to walk the Ventura half marathon. Be like, what? What are you, crazy? This 2.5 months, 3 months out from my accident. I'm still atrophied. Still can't fall. Walking like a robot. I signed up.
Wow. 3 months after the accident, not after recovery, after the accident.
I signed up, wow. And it was in 1 month. So I show up, people of course, my buddy that's a doctor, he's nervous. Everything I did, this poor guy, everything I say, hey, I'm going to do this, he's nervous. I go, oh, God, Rich, but please. So I used to get in the front of the line at a marathon because I used to be a pretty good runner. I'd run marathons or I'd have marathons. I'm right up front because I don't want to have to be running around people. I want to get my time. I literally walked past the lady that was like last people here. I walked past her and I walked the marathon. And to me, I used to run a 1:36 half marathon. It's pretty fast for me, Now I'm like, I hope I can walk it and beat the 3.5 hour cutoff.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was a big jump for me. And then I started going to, hey, I can run. And then I started running in the mornings, like 3 miles, and my 3 mile runs there, I was running faster than before my accident. I was like, this is weird. Because when I did the speed walking, when I did the training with the speed walking, I kind of changed the way my legs moved a little bit, and I got more efficiency and I got faster.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So I did that. And then there's like a gauntlet of things. I'm like, all right, what do I do next? I got the walking down. Let me try swimming. So I'm kind of in my brain reverting back to what I know, triathlon stuff. And so I went to the pool at the Y, super scary. Like, you know how slippery the locker room is at the Y? I can't fall. I'm holding on the railing with 2 hands and I'm walking like I'm 95 years old through that thing. I go down the pool. I tell the lifeguard, look, I just come out of a big injury. Keep an eye on me. It's only 4 feet deep. And I literally went to like waist deep water. And I just looked down the lane. I was like, I didn't know what to do. It's like, well, what do I do? And I had the snorkel that goes over my nose because my neck didn't move. Like, I wonder if I can just kind of grab forward, almost like a half doggy paddle. And so what I did was I walked a couple times. I was terrified. All these things I did, I was terrified when I did them. But I had to go. And so I started walking, and then I just kind of fell forward in the pool. And then I stood up. I was like, okay, your head didn't fall off, right? And then I just went. I probably did the sloppiest thing. I was a pretty good swimmer, I probably did the sloppiest, whatever you want to call it, 100, 200 yards in the pool. It's like, okay, next time I'm going to work, and instead of rotating my neck, I would just rotate my body to breathe, to go freestyle. So basically we just go like that and just like my neck didn't, just the whole body went over.
Right.
And I can't sight. So thank God, like we talked about, there's a line at the bottom. And I kept going, dialed in the technique, got past my fears. I had to feel stupid in the beginning. I had like the young guy holding on to the railing like he's like terrified. Standing in the pool, not sure what to do. Right? I had to feel dumb to move forward, and that's big with all the things I went through. Walking, I had to feel dumb. I had to walk, and like, okay, it's okay. I'm walking around like this. It's okay. I'm walking. I'm in the pool, and so with everything I did, and we kind of talked about this, is I had to visualize what I wanted. And I just did it in a segment. I want to swim in this pool. I want to walk that half marathon. What's it going to take? And then I said, okay, I have to go beyond just, okay, I did a lap. No, push it. then I would celebrate every day I had a win. Every day. The first time I could reach up above and wash my head with like body wash, that was a victory lap because I used to have a spray bottle. That's the only way I could put soap on my body was with a spray bottle.
Yeah.
My hands didn't go up over my head. They didn't work.
Right.
And so go ahead.
I was just going to say, as people are listening to this, once again, we go back to all the things that we do on an everyday basis, washing our hair, walking down the street, getting in the pool, swimming. And here you are, talking about so much appreciation for the smallest of things to put your hand on your head, after this major injury and trauma that you've gone through. Because again, I think, there's a lot of the physical, but a lot of the stuff that we're talking about too is, just that mental state and that emotional state of everything that's going on. And as you were finishing your thought back there, it was focusing on one step, one lap, one more thing, and to keep moving forward.
That was the whole thing. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Now, if you look like a dork, that's okay. And that's been my message to a lot of people. You're the fat guy who wants to go and lose weight. Great. Show up, put tennis shoes on, go out there, and people are going to look at you, right? I did it with Krav Maga. The first time I went and talked to Robert, I said, hey, I want to learn how to fall. He's like, what? I was like, I want to learn how to fall. Because a fall to me is going to be way more detrimental than a fall to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have to fall with control, right?
Right.
And I go to my x-ray, and now he's like super nervous, like, geez, how do we work with this? Because my entire neck is metal.
Right.
And I was like, and I can't fall, but you got to teach me how to fall. He's like, okay. But he did a remarkable job. So I was doing one-on-one privates with him, and he did an incredible job of building my confidence. And so there wasn't that I'm the dork or I'm embarrassed factor as a newbie with him. This is one-on-one. And then he pushed me up. And I did the work to test for yellow belt. And that was Mr. Cock was the grader and Robert was holding the pads. So there's no hiding any mistakes. Like there was none. I was super nervous. I trained more than probably anybody. I shouldn't say that. I trained a lot, I went to class. Robert convinced me to go to regular class. I didn't know what it was, right? Because I've just been doing privates in the morning. And all these people were like, hey, you've got a yellow belt on, and who are you, and where have you been?
Right.
Well, I've been kind of hiding in private lessons with Robert, here I am. So in the beginning, I have to be, if you will, kind of the weak, fragile one in a way. Say, hey guys, it's like, I got to be careful. There's something, I don't want to go into the whole thing. Hey, da 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 da,
Right.
But I have to explain, like, there's a safety issue with me, right? And they're like, what is? Oh, I got a metal neck, right? And so there's that. And I have had to do it down here. I had to do it in Thailand when I was doing the Muay Thai stuff. It's just kind of like, that's what I have to do it. Right. So I do
and I mean, you really put yourself out there, right? I mean, knowing that there's potential risk, knowing that you're going to look like, and because I've talked many times with people that were athletes when they were younger. And as we get older, our body changes and things that we were once able to do, we're no longer able to do. But, on the flip side, as someone that's a little bit older, we're able to unlock things that we weren't able to unlock when we were younger. And with your experience, right, you even said with your running, you were running faster after your injury because of the way that you ran. So you've unlocked these tools now much later than you were able to do when you were younger. But you put yourself out there and put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to build yourself up. And even if you didn't know it, right, when you put yourself out there, that's a huge example to others that are watching you. I can imagine that the students, after knowing what you had gone through, are like, man, I could never bitch about anything. Like, I come to class and, I'm sore, I'm this or I'm that, but I never had a broken freaking neck. I was never, paralyzed on the side of my body where I couldn't do it. And so, it's just a total different level of appreciation. But your example, you know, really fills others with optimism and hope and positivity.
Yeah, thank you. And I like your perspective on that. I can tell anybody listening now or anybody who's going to listen later, you get one life. I literally have been given my life again on June 2nd, 2019. You get one life. You only get one. So if you want to get active and you want to get fit, you have one life, go do it. Don't do it on your deathbed. Just go live, because you don't know what tomorrow. I mean, I could have been gone like that, right? But putting yourself out there, and what I've learned in a friend of mine's going through this, he actually changed his life from my accident. He used to be the fat guy. Now he just sent me a note. He's like, I'm in Las Vegas. I decided to do the half marathon they have here. So he's like, he's kind of like the born again athletic guy, right? He's gone, right? He slowed down, right? You know, but like his confidence is up. I see his confidence up. And so what happened with me, and this is also a message I like to share with people, is in the beginning, your confidence is going to be low, but you will slowly get some confidence. You will slowly get confidence, and then you will get stronger or thinner, or you'll be learning the languages, whatever it is you want to do, it doesn't matter. But as you go slower and as you get a little bit, you build a confidence. Now, I was in the military 13 years. There's a lot of the machismo, plow through it, be strong in the head.
Right. Suck it up. Always suck it up.
That's like having a bowling ball for a head, right? You know, and I was like, no, what are you thinking? How do you feel? Process it. You feel insecure, you feel non-confident, that's okay. Now let's work on not getting it. So when I went to Thailand, I just got back a couple of weeks ago. I went to Thailand, told my buddy, he's like, hey, I'm going to go do Muay Thai training. Well, when I told them I was doing Krav, everybody freaked out. They're like, hey, and my buddy's a doctor. Hold on. Let me talk to some friends that have done it. He kind of like downplays it, right? You know, Joe, I'm going to go do it, but I'm going to do it safe, right? But when I went to Thailand, I was like, I've never trained Muay Thai in my life. I go to Thailand, I researched the schools, and I went to the school, and I talked to the owner. I was like, look, I got this neck condition, and so we got to be careful with that. So there's no sparring, there's no doing sweeps on my legs and knocking me down. Can't happen. I need to learn how to defend them. I need to learn how to do them, but you can't do it to me. They're like, okay. So I'm in this is a hardcore Muay Thai gym. These guys are fighters. They're all killers. Like, they're not big guys, but they're just like, it's insane how tough these guys are. So I show up and they're like, okay. I did privates for a little bit. I did privates every day, but then I would go to the group classes as well. And then in the group classes, the owner knew, like, they're like, okay, people get in the ring for sparring, and they're like, Richard's not going to do that. I was like, yep, I agree. So I just go hit the bag. And so putting myself out there has given me a lot of experiences that I never would have had. Putting myself out there in the Muay Thai gym, it's like, okay, but I knew how to throw a punch. I knew how to throw a kick. I knew how to throw an elbow. I learned that all from Robert. They fine-tuned it to that technique, but it was like, hey, my confidence is pretty high. Then when I leave, they're like, oh. And then what was funny is I put myself out there, then other people would show up, kind of newbies, much, much younger. I'm 57. And then I remember one time this Australian guy, he shows up, like, I've been a boxer for 10 years. I was like, oh, that's good. Because I know how these workouts go. I know how these classes go. And one time in the gym, it was 102. It's an open air gym. It was 102. 15 minutes, he's outside throwing up on the grass.
Yeah.
Right? And in about 30 minutes, a lot of people have the 1,000-yard stare. You know, the picture from Vietnam, you just like, they don't even know what's going on. And then the instructor, you know, my trainer, who's a fighter, is like, come on, get up. He's 57. And I was like, oh man, now I can't take a break.
Right.
So he just hammered on me for 30 minutes with the pads, you know. I was like, oh, okay. But the experience I've had from this accident, where I entered things where I had zero confidence, zero experience, everything was new. Everything is new again. Getting in the ocean was new to me. I used to surf bigger waves, 18, 20-foot faces. I used to surf them. Now walking in the water, I'm scared of a 3-foot wave knocking me down.
Mm-hmm.
So I had very little confidence. And then I became runner, a paddleboarder, do long distance paddleboarding. I climbed Half Dome. I did the same thing. I had to walk around with this little backpack, and I had a little bit more weight, and I could barely go up the hills, and I trained and The swimming, the running, biking, you know how hard it was to get back on a bicycle? It's pretty hard, you know?
Yeah.
But I did. I'm on a County Electra bicycle. It's not an electric bike, but I did a half Ironman on it. I did 56 miles on that thing. It weighs 36 pounds. I had fun. I probably had the slowest bike time on the whole course. But people coming up and like, dude, that's badass. It is 3,500 feet of climb on this course.
Wow.
I couldn't finish the run. I was too wiped out, right? The pedal is 36-pound bike with flat pedals. There's 3,600 feet of climb. It's hot as heck up in Utah. I was like, I'm so happy. I've never had a do not finish race in my entire life.
Really?
This was technically my do not finish. I was so happy. So happy I finished that bike course.
Now, you know, we're going to wrap up in just a minute.
Sure.
And I want to give you some an opportunity for your final thoughts and just share, you know, your biggest takeaways. We've already shared so many, but, you know, as I'm listening to you talk about, you know, starting over and then taking these baby steps, I can't help but think that you are an extremely patient person, or maybe you weren't, but I would assume now that you are now.
I absolutely was not.
Yeah, because
now
you
I
can't
am.
just get on a bike and go. You can't just get on and go. You know, you're taking little steps. Even just the Muay Thai workout. You know, everything was building back. Everything was building back, and you know, I just think that's, you know, they say patience is a virtue, right? And what a good lesson, valuable lesson, because I'm one of the least patient. Injuries drive me crazy, and I'm talking about I got a pulled hamstring. I got to get my knee checked. You know, these are minor things compared to, you know, what we've been talking about for the last hour. And I'm super impatient. You know, as a matter of fact, I posted and you commented.
Yeah,
I posted about my injury, and I have to tell you, you know, after posting that, it made me reflect on so much, because I had a lot of feedback. I almost feel like I was a little extra dramatic in my post anyway. But I get your comment, and I go, shut the F up. This is not a big deal. But in my mind, I was just letting it build up and build up and build up. But, you know, again, perspective, right? And listening to your story and listening to other people's thoughts. You know, it was someone else, a student of mine, who said, you know, hey, yeah, you may have been able to do all this stuff when you were younger, but look at you now. You're able to unlock so many things as an older athlete. And not only that, you're able to teach all the people that you teach because of the mistakes that you've already made that I couldn't have been able to give to them when I was that younger athlete. And for yourself, the same.
Think of this philosophy. Everything you do in life has a 2-year shelf life. You want to keep growing. Everything you've accomplished. I used to do Ironman. That's my other life. I used to run fast marathons. Other life. What have I done in the past 2 years? What are my accomplishments? That's it. Everything else, it's expired. So that way you stay with your current body, your current age, your current abilities, your current whatever. That's what I do. What's your last 2 years? That's all. The rest is kind of okay. That's history. Don't try to live past 2 years.
Right. Well, you know, which is interesting, because I always talk about how, you know, I'm only as good as my last class, right? As an instructor, I'm only good as the last class. I'm real short, right? That's one class, not 2 years. But now you put that thought in my head of, okay, what have I done in the last 2 years? Because that's all that really matters. Because everything else was I used to be able to, not I am doing, right?
Right.
So let's give us your final thoughts as we wrap things up today.
Sure. So my final thought is, if anybody's wanting to go make any type of change in their life or advance in anything they want to do, I have 4 messages, and this is on my website as well. Visualize the life you want. Just visualize what you want. Keep it in your head and just keep forward, and it's not a dream. Go beyond what you think is basic stuff, okay? And then set some goals, but don't set, oh, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest next year. That's like, no, you need to set achievable goals that you get the wins and celebrate the small wins. And when you celebrate the small wins, you gain the confidence. At least that's my experience. But one thing that I didn't add into what I experienced was accept that you're gonna feel embarrassed. Be okay being embarrassed. And once you're okay being embarrassed, you don't care because I'm gonna go experience something. And that's what I would tell people. Just those 4 things. Start small, visualize it, be embarrassed, but celebrate the small wins. If you're overweight and you walked 100 yards, that's 100 more than yesterday. I walked 100 yards. I celebrated. I could walk 100 yards. And look what I ended up doing.
Here you are. Wow. What an amazing story. And just, I really appreciate you, breaking this all down for us and being vulnerable and, talking about the struggles, but along with that came the triumph, in my opinion, the bigger wins. Now started with small wins, bigger wins, one by one. And it's just inspiring to hear what happened and where you are now. So, appreciate the time with you today and appreciate you sharing your message. Tell us about your podcast and your website so that people can go check it out.
Okay, sure. So richhasfun.com. It's the website. It's the Instagram. All my stuff's out there. It's all free. More details about the accident. And then the podcast. If you're feeling kind of lazy or you're having a pity party, go listen to the podcast and email me if it didn't kind of end your pity party for you. It's pretty much guaranteed.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again. Really appreciate you being on today and look forward to staying connected, and we'll talk again really soon. So for everybody that watched today, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Do us a favor, share the video, share the story, let everybody hear this. Also go to YouTube and subscribe to Master Motivation Podcast for future episodes coming up. Got a couple more this week and looking forward to many more guests in 2023. I will be starting to book 2024 within the next 30 days. So would love to know if anybody has any suggestions of who they'd like to hear from. Please go ahead and send me a message and be sure to book them on the show. But again, Rich, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right, guys, go out and make it a great one. Talk to you real soon.